I'm really sorry.
Stop apologizing.
Everything I say seems to be wrong. In both. What?
Well, it would have
Don't
helped if
worry,
some of my
I'm
friends
fine.
called once in a
This
while.
is just a rehearsal.
Vinod and Charlie, lights come up.
What about the fact
Vinod, give me a break, okay?
give you a break?
It's my first time doing a script read for a play online, and I'm pretty sure it won't be my last. Circuit breaker may be over, but I'm still stuck at home.
Josh, are you forgetting something?
Forgot to take the food out of the fridge to defrost.
And life is pretty much on repeat.
In this debut episode, I want to find out what it takes for all this to end, and more importantly, when it's going to end.
We've woken up in a new world. It's changing everything, from the way we work, the way we eat, the way we greet each other.
I'm back to help you make sense of these, unprecedented times. I know things are up in the air, but I'm gonna tell you how to survive a pandemic. We can end the pandemic. We have done it before. And our best defense against the virus is immunity. When a virus spreads through a community, the people who recover from it develop immunity. And when that happens to enough people, it becomes harder for the virus to spread. So it eventually dies out. But if we allowed the virus to spread this way, millions could die. So, the safer option is to develop a vaccine. And once enough people get vaccinated, we'll have herd immunity.
But as infection and death rates climb steadily, the need for a vaccine has become even more urgent.
Pharmaceutical companies are scrambling to be the first to produce a COVID-19 vaccine.
With billions spent and at least 70 vaccines in the works, we should get a vaccine soon. No? Well, it turns out, historically, only 6% of vaccines developed ever make it to the market, and even then, only after several years. The polio vaccine took 20 years and several failed attempts. The first influenza vaccine, at least 12 years. Measles, about 9 years. The mumps vaccine, considered the fastest ever approved, took 4 years. So, we are getting better at vaccines over the last century. The pandemic isn't even a year old, but scientists at Singapore's Duke NUS have already begun preclinical trials for a vaccine they're developing with a US biotech firm. The results have been promising. So, the team could be ready for human trials in August. I really want to know when we can expect a vaccine, so I caught up with the team's head scientist.
Hi, Professor Wee. When can we see a vaccine here in Singapore or in the world? Could we see it before 2020 ends?
I don't think so, but I'm an eternal optimist. I'd like to say that by about this time next year, we'll have one.
Why is it taking so long to develop a vaccine?
Actually, in reality, vaccine development takes a long time. And the entire journey from the point of starting development to actually getting licensed and for medical use is usually more than 10 years, right? So it's a long process, and we're trying to shrink that down to, trying to get from concept to starting clinical trials in, 3 to 6 months.
Is the vaccine the end game for COVID-19?
No, I don't think so.
No?
We've only ever eradicated one disease from the world, and that was smallpox. And smallpox, we could eradicate it because it only was transmitted from human to human. It doesn't affect other animals. The SARS coronavirus 2 came from an animal, and there's a whole lot of animals that probably have the virus that we don't know of. And so even if we can get rid of it from the human population, we can be sure that it'll come back from the animal population.
Come back? That's depressing news, given how fast the virus went around the globe the first time around.
The first case of COVID-19 was reported here in December 2019.
And in just half a year, thanks to international air travel, the virus has spread to every continent except Antarctica. And triggered a shutdown in major cities across the world.
We could be facing the worst recession ever since the Great Depression. But until a vaccine is found, experts say the only way to deal with this pandemic is to flatten the curve.
Many people would have heard of the term by now, but not everyone knows the details of what it actually represents.
This is the SAID curve, also known as an epidemic curve. The y-axis represents the number of infections, the x-axis the number of days passed since the first case. This shows you how quickly the virus spreads if left unchecked. But that's not the curve we want. Because the faster the infection curve rises, the quicker our healthcare facilities get overwhelmed. That's what this line here represents. So the idea is to spread out all those infections over a longer period of time so that demand for treatment doesn't exceed our available hospital beds, ICUs, ventilators, and medical professionals. It means that everyone who gets the virus can receive the treatment they need.
That's why countries are doing whatever it takes to flatten the curve, including Singapore.
We will close most workplaces, except for essential services and key economic sectors.
The closures slowed the spread of the virus, but it also brought economic life in Singapore to a crawl. And after enduring the pain for 2 months, we still did not get the news we were hoping for.
We are starting phase 1 of the reopening in a very careful and calibrated manner. Many restrictions will continue in phase 1 for a few weeks.
So we might be out of the circuit breaker, but we are clearly not going back to normal anytime soon. We still can't dine in or hang out with friends at the hawker center, and most shops remain closed.
When's it gonna end?
So things won't be changing in a hurry. Do we really need to be so cautious or kiasu?
The Tokyo Olympics is not happening this year.
Coronavirus concerns have affected the global sporting calendar as well, including football.
Airlines are suspended.
This is an extraordinary time.
Ooh, what a shot!
Our lives have been disrupted in unprecedented ways, and many have tried different ways to achieve a sense of normalcy, myself included.
So, here's what it takes to make my own bubble tea pearls. Yay! Bubble tea shops are closed, but I can still have my bubble tea. At the point of this recording, about a third of our global population is under some form of lockdown.
But do measures have to be so extreme for infection rates to be low? Well, if we look at May's numbers, in terms of cases per million, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and South Korea seem to be doing pretty well, even without a full lockdown. Sweden has higher numbers, but its businesses remain open and only gatherings of 50 or more are banned. Yet their numbers are still lower than Italy and Spain, who were both in full lockdown for almost 2 months. And while Singapore might have some of the lowest COVID-19 death rates, we still have more than 5,000 cases per million people. That's in spite of a 2-month-long circuit breaker. So just how effective are extreme measures in keeping numbers low?
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Joshua.
Professor Yap's team at NUS has been studying lockdown measures across the world.
So what is the best strategy? The question you're asking is a difficult one because it will be different for every country. So the non-answer I'm going to give you is that the best strategy is the one that suits your country. How many cases they actually had, the density of the countries, and if there are first few cases that are coming in and they're able to trace and track them and isolate them quickly, you do not need so much strong, strict measures within the country because there just isn't that much virus to go around.
Just looking at Germany, they've sort of lifted the lockdown, but then we also see like the rates are starting to come up again. So why is it so difficult to keep the curve down?
The lifting of the lockdown won't. It's not an off switch. You just flip and everybody goes back to the way it used to be. Unfortunately, this is not one of those times where we have the benefit of lots of practice, right? So it's going to be a bit of experimentation along the way, I think. I suspect that what we used to take for granted, like air travel and so on, might have to be seriously modified for quite some time yet. We will also at the same time need to change the way we interact in society.
We're just in phase 1 of our exit strategy. But even once we're in our final phase, until a vaccine is found, we'd still have to practice safe distancing.
Come on guys, you can come a little closer. Alright, not so close. A little bit back. Alright, yes. Any closer than this, and you risk getting fined at least $300, or even worse, getting charged in court.
And Darren is here to ensure that you're never too close. He is an SG Clean ambassador with NEA, and his job is to encourage us to practice good hygiene habits and toe the 1 meter line. And that's a role I'm pretty excited to try out.
How do you know, like are we standing 1 meter apart right now? How do you gauge?
Oh, so normally we use our body measurements. So I know that from my shoulder to the end of my thumb is around 1.13 meters for myself.
For yourself?
Yeah. So when you engage the member of the public, we have to be very friendly when we approach them.
Okay, we would have to smile with our eyes. Hi, good morning. Thanks for maintaining the 1 meter distance. Thanks, have a great day. How's that? Was I smiling with my eyes?
Yep, you're doing a great job.
The 1 meter distancing, yeah. Thanks, guys. 1 meter apart, please. From what I've observed, most people are keeping to the recommended safe distance. But does 1 meter really make that much of a difference?
The world just can't seem to agree on what the safe distance should be. It's 1 meter in Singapore, 1.5 meters in Australia, and 2 meters in the UK and US.
Just how far apart do we really need to be?
And is the safe distance the same for different activities? I'm placing mannequins at 3 different recommended safe distancing lengths. 1 meter, 1.5 meters, and 2 meters. With the help of a Numinous concoction, I'll find out just how safe these distances are. So, if I shine black light at it, it'll glow. I'm going to lace my mouth with this so I can see where my droplets land when I sneeze. Oh my gosh! All over his head and face. If I had COVID-19, this guy definitely has it too. More spots on a t-shirt, a little bit over here. It looks like a bird defecated on his arm. 1 meter is obviously not enough. So, is 1.5 meters any safer? Okay. So the neck has not escaped my spittle. Look at the arm. Some on the t-shirt, a few spots. Another reason why you shouldn't touch your face with your hands, or in this case, your arms. 1.5 meters, still not far enough. But surely 2 meters should do the trick, right? There are some spots on the t-shirt still. There on his chest, on the arms, a little bit. I do see a little bit, yeah. Even at 2 meters, it isn't entirely safe, especially if you have a habit of wiping your face with your shirt. Although some experts say it is harder to catch the virus from soft surfaces. So how far apart do we need to be absolutely safe? A scientist from MIT found that mucus and saliva can travel as far as 8 meters. And coughing and sneezing are not the only things we need to worry about. Singing and talking are apparently quite dangerous. In March, 3/4 of a US choir group tested COVID-19 positive 3 weeks after a rehearsal. Sister Sally sitting in a shoe shine shop. So just how far can our droplets travel when we're singing or talking? She sits and shines and shines and sits. She shines and sits and shines. Well, let's put it to the test. Okay, so 2 spots at the top, coming down to the torso. Oh, really tiny, but they're there. A few spots on his tummy. At 1.5 meters, nothing on the face or body, but specks still around his feet. 2 meters, some close to the feet. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. What about talking? A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. Whoa, you've got some on your face already. Tiny little specks on the t-shirt. Oh, a few on the arms. 1.5 meters, some on the face and by the feet. 2 meters, none on the face or body, but several droplets around the feet. And it's not just about what we can see, but rather what we can't see. A study found that a minute of talking loudly could produce more than 1,000 coronavirus-filled droplets. What's worse is that they can linger in the air for up to 14 minutes. In early April, a few countries, including Singapore, reversed their stance on mask wearing.
Most experts agree that any form of protection is definitely better, and whether it's homemade or surgical, it still might stop carriers from unknowingly passing the virus on, but it may not prevent you from getting infected. And that's why we still have to keep a distance. And of course, keep our hands clean.
So how much longer do we have to live like that? Well, one forecasting model predicts that, based on data available in early May, the pandemic could end on New Year's Eve for the world. And as early as 19th July for Singapore. Really? To get to the bottom of this, I reached out to its creator, data scientist Luo Jianxi.
How much faith can I have in those numbers, in those dates?
The data only provide indication. They're not facts. If the real world scenarios change, include government policies, including business activities, human behaviors, right, or even the testing scenarios change, those changes will cause the data to change, the estimated curves to change.
Then what's the point of predicting?
It provides evaluation of the effectiveness of the policies in place in the current scenarios. Right. So if we continue in a scenario, if the predicted ending is what we wanted, we should keep in the same scenarios, right? Maintain the trajectory. Or even we want to further bend the curves, right? Make the tail shorter, make the peak lower. We should even do more.
So, will life along these streets be back to normal by Christmas? Well, no scientist can say for sure.
For now, the virus has a head start. We still don't have a vaccine or a cure. So the best thing we can do is to keep our distance. And since only shouting distance is good enough, it's best to just stay home. Because the more we do our part to flatten the curve, the less stress we put on our healthcare systems. And that's why it matters.